Welcome to the Printing Bureau, where we unlock market secrets through cutting-edge predictive analysis and forecasts. Dive deep with us as we explore stocks, commodities, crypto, forex, and property. Remember, while we provide insights, this information is for educational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. Market predictions are inherently uncertain, so always do your own research and consult with a financial advisor. We're not liable for any losses or damages. Let's navigate the markets together.
All right, guys, welcome to the Sunday weekly review of Altcoins. Printing Bureau, welcome here, and let's look at what's going on in the altcoin space and see what opportunities we can unlock and share. So we're starting off with the Bitcoin market cap dominance, and as you can see here on the weekly chart, we forming kind of a rejection candle, right? So if the week closes, chances are if it closes like this, it's possible that we may go up first before we come down. If I go into the daily chart, so we had a few red candles in a row, and all of a sudden we seem to be bouncing the other way. Let's look at 12 hours and see what's happening on the 12-hour chart. So on this 12-hour chart, we haven't engulfed this candle yet, so still not out of the bearish scenario. For us to come out of this bearish scenario, we need to go and close above here, 66, right? That's when Bitcoin dominance is back up again, going higher. And if that happens, we go into 70. If that happens, then we head into 70. If I bring it to the 4-hour chart, what I can see here is we've got a double bottom here. So, you've got 65.52, 65.52, which is double bottom, right? So you're likely to go up. I think we go up all the way up to somewhere here around the 65.82 and face some resistance there and then collapse. I could be wrong on that, and it could be that it goes and exceeds these tops, right? And the double top did not play out, and it exceeds these tops and then continues going to 70, right? So those are the scenarios with Bitcoin dominance. The weekly close will tell us more, but I think this thing will continue grinding up to at the very least to around 65.8, at the very least to about 65.8. So that's Bitcoin dominance. It's going to get a little bit more interesting overnight. Let's go and look at some of the other altcoins with that in mind. So let's look at, let's start with TIER. So look at the TIER BTC chart. So here, what we can see on the weekly chart is we are likely to form a red candle, which means we'll go lower, which means we are likely to go lower. We are likely to go lower here, on this chart. So which means it's going to lose strength against Bitcoin, which means that is going to have an impact in terms of the USD pair, right? So let's look at the USD pair and see what's going on there. So let's pick this one here and let's have a look at that. So what we're seeing right now on this particular candle we're forming in the weekly chart is like an inverted hammer. So provided it closes like this, then, and the next candle doesn't go below it, then that'll be the end of the fall on TIER. I doubt that'll be the case. I think based on the fact that Bitcoin dominance might gain some strength and TIER BTC is not looking strong, I think any fall on Bitcoin, even down to the 104, might invalidate this potentially, which means we're more likely to come into my box of around the 1A, I'll say between 118 or 120 to about 125, somewhere there at the very least. I'd expect us to hit before we start going up on this pair. So that's Celestia for you there. A bit more downside. Let's move on to AAVE. So let's look at our AAVE. AAVE is looking really strong. I'm looking for here. Okay. So here we go. So AAVE on the weekly chart, likelihood is scenario, we may close triple green, which means, if we close above this, that would be a perfect scenario because we would have engulfed this whole candle. So if we do that, I think we'll have more upside. And I think even if we don't, we'll close green, I think, and then we'll go down slightly and then potentially continue our journey to the upside would be what I would expect on this chart because we are strong above the 200, SMA, and we've got support also of the 50 SMA as well. So I'd expect us to continue going up, but there could be a pullback in to test these tops here, somewhere around like 264 zone. So if you're looking for a long, that would be a great place to pick up some longs on AAVE. AAVE looking very strong. The monthly chart on AAVE is also looking very, very strong as well. So if you look at the monthly chart, this thing is going to go higher. I think we'll probably end up going all the way up to about 670, hopefully, before we return back. We'll definitely go higher. So that's that one. That's AAVE. Let's move on to the next pair. Let's look at CRV. So we'll look at CRV on the monthly chart. So CRV on the monthly chart, it's not looking great because we probably end up closing the month red, which means we potentially could come into that box down here. If you step it back to the weekly chart, we definitely will test the liquidity sitting behind here and here. So I think that's the zone where potentially we will get support and continue our journey to the upside. So a little bit more downside on CRV. Let's move to the next pair. Hype. So hype, we've got definitely, red candle here, big fat red candle. We've tested the wick and we're trying to go up. I think we potentially will come into this box. Definitely will come back into this box. If I look at it from a daily chart perspective, we are forming something of a double top. So you've got 39.11, 39.4. And if you close like this, that wouldn't look good because you got double top and it potentially brings you down. We need to convincingly close above here, above these tops. So far it's not too bad, I would say, because I mean, if you close above here, then you're closing above these tops, and that'll be good. So if we close above these tops, that will provide support for us to go up. If we don't and we close below these tops tonight, then that won't be good. So it's still looking okay. If you go to the monthly chart, still a very strong chart. Still a very strong chart. But I'm sensing some weakness. I'm sensing some weakness here that could potentially bring us back into this box here, this area here at the very least. So, our interest box needs to move. I don't think we'll get to this point. I think we'll probably, best case scenario would be between here and there will be our best case scenario in terms of the pullback if we get it. So that's hype. Let's move on to the next pair. Injective. Injective is looking very good. I like it on the monthly chart. Although we're forming a red candle, it's looking really good because we could come and test this liquidity sitting here, somewhere here. If it gets pretty bad in terms of the pullback, which I doubt it will do, then there's liquidity sitting here between here and here, which they can come for. Step into their weekly chart. I think we could come back and test these bottoms here, somewhere on this liquidity zone here. So it could come down a little bit more before we go up on injective. So that's injective. Let's move on to Maker. Maker is also looking very good on the monthly chart. You can see it's a strong chart. I expect maybe a small pullback. Worst case scenario, we get a small pullback to some of these tops here. And let's take it on a weekly chart. So we could get a small pullback to maybe double bottom type scenario here. But if it gets really bad, then there's an interest candle here, which has to be exceeded, which means it will either come and do a double bottom somewhere here, or it could come to somewhere here. So I think there's potentially a little bit more of a pullback on this. If we put it to 4 hours, you can see it's already starting at the moment. So, we are starting our pullback. I think we'll come back into the zone here, 1671. I think somewhere here, we get there and we continue our journey to the upside. Let's move on to the next one, render. So render, we are on the 4 hour chart. this is zone and that zone here and here are liquidity zones that they can come for. If we put it on a weekly chart, we haven't engulfed this candle yet. There isn't a proper divergence at the moment. So I would suggest that, potentially, we could end up coming down a little bit into this box, diverge somehow, triple bottom type scenario here, and then we off to go higher. So that's render. Let's move on to the next one, which is say. Say has been looking really good, and I think we called it last week. It was looking really good. So we've got fat green candle here, which is what you want to see. We probably may pull back a little bit. I think the worst case scenario, this pulls back to about 25.25 and then continues the journey to the upside. So it's looking really strong. This is one of the strongest coins at the moment on altcoins, and great one to kind of great one to collect some of these on spot on a spot bag and allow it to kind of run its course. So it's looking really good. Let's move on to the next one, which is Ethereum. So Ethereum on the monthly chart, you can see it's done its bounce. We're facing resistance at this 50 SMA, and if we close below it for the month, then we're likely to go down a bit more. If we look at the weekly chart as well, we haven't been able to engulf this candle. We are facing resistance on this 200 SMA. So again, if we close below it tonight, you can expect us to come down here towards these zones here, somewhere here, and pick some of the liquidity which is sitting below here, and also below this particular rejection candle here. So that's what I'm seeing on Ethereum. Let's move on to the next one. The next one I want to look at is PENDLE. So last but not the least, PENDLE. So PENDLE, what we can see on PENDLE here on the weekly chart, again, it's a very similar story. It's being rejected off here. It's also being rejected off the 200 SMA. So, chances are you come back into this liquidity sitting below this candle. Alternatively, we come down to here and test the liquidity sitting here. So somewhere here, somewhere around the 202, between 202 and 261 zone, somewhere here, I'd expect price to come back to. So PENDLE also potentially has got a little bit more of a downside to it. Now let's look at meme coins, look at some of the meme coins and see what's going on with meme coins. Some of the meme coins we like. Let's look at GOAT. GOAT, is it back into our interest box? Not yet, but I'd expect us to come back into our interest box into next week. And then let's move on to Mooding. Mooding, we've not back into our interest box yet, but I think we will get back in there. This will go lower. So expecting lower prices on Mooding. Peanut is another one as well. We're not yet in our interest box, and we are being rejected off this 20 EMA. So again, I'd expect us to get back into this box. Let's move on to the next one, which is Pepe. So Pepe, as that red candle has not been exceeded. We haven't engulfed this candle either, so I'd expect more downside price action here into this box. So more downside. Bonk, we look at Bonk. Again, Bonk is looking good. It's not been able to engulf this candle. So we'd have to wait to see how it closes. If it's able to close and engulf this candle, then you would expect, more upward action. But other than that, you would expect it to continue its journey into this box where it'll find support. Let's move on to Trump. So on Trump, we can see this candle here is not engulfed this. We've not gone below. So I'd expect our box to be filled at some point. Now, the only caveat to this one is if this becomes an inverted hammer, right? If it becomes an inverted hammer and it's still green at midnight, the chances are you may only just come back down to somewhere here or somewhere here and continue your journey to the upside. So you've got to be mindful of that. All the ones with the inverted hammer, if we close like that, then potentially that might be the end, provided we don't go below the candle. So let's caveat that. And then fat coin. So fat coin, again, it's a similar story unless this candle is engulfed. This candle is still in control, and we will end up coming below into this box, before we go up. It could even come down to this point here, around 4.3. So let's move on to wave. On wave, what we've got on wave, we've tried to engulf, couldn't. Let's see how it closes at midnight, because if it's engulfed this one, we may pull back slightly and continue our journey to the upside, and we may not come back into our interest box. Let's move on to the next one, XPX. So XPX, big fat selling candle, try to go up, good big strong volume that engulfs this. But it's not been able to engulf this one either. So, I would say, we come back down into this box before we go up. If we close like this, then there's a potential for us to pull maybe to 50% and then continue our journey. So you've got to be aware of that as well. Popcat, let's look at Popcat, see what's going on with Popcat. Popcat is coming to our interest box, which is quite interesting. So it's coming there, but we haven't gone below this candle. So bear in mind, if we don't close green like this, then there's a problem. If we close like this, maybe we might pull back slightly to 50% of the candle and may continue our journey to the upside. So you've got to be mindful of that. Let's look at Miro. Miro is also it's coming to our interest box, Miro. Only thing I'll say again is a very similar story across all these charts. If this is closing green, then you need to be aware that, it could continue going up and it may just pull back into, say, 50% of the body of the candle. If we close below, then we're going way lower and we'll be at the bottom here. So bear that in mind with that one. Let's move on to Moonpig. Moonpig is a horrible chart. Goodness me, this is horrible. There's nothing. This is going to go lower, but all I'll say on this one is, again, if it becomes an inverted hammer like this, then be careful, because you might not go below it, and you may just close here and start going up. So long as by next week we have a green candle after this and we haven't gone below this, that is our sign for our reversal. Okay, so we'll keep an eye on that one. And last but not the least, let's look at Kikus Maximus. So this one is, again, it's one of those similar stories, right? If we close inverted hammer, then that might be the end of it. You might go up. But let's see how we close tonight. I think most of these charts are looking like inverted hammers after this, and so let's see whether we get any. If we go to the daily chart, so there's a pink candle here which can be exceeded. The question is, are we going to exceed it? Because you see this one here, that was an inverted hammer and it's a reversal sign. So you've gone up and we have a green candle after that. So maybe the weekly might end up being an inverted hammer, and it might be the case, and then it might be that we then go up after that. So bear that in mind with all these charts. I think most of them have it. I think that's a lot that we've covered so far on meme coins. So we're going to leave it here. I wish you all the best for the coming week, and like and subscribe to the channel if you like what we put out.